We got our friend Swerva. He says he wants to come on. I'm saying I believe in books, not guns. Guy, culture, not violence. Okay. Swifty wants to come up. Let's get a few guys up here today. Guys, gals. What's up, Tom? How you been, my friend?
How's it going, man? Long time no see. Since
I'm,
it's been a whole 24 hours.
I already forgot how to use Clubhouse. I'm using the wrong microphone here, so that makes sense. Marcella's in the house. Phil's in the house. John Jay, what's going on? Swifty.
All good, just at work, and glad to be here with you all.
How far behind on all your stuff are you, John?
Dude, it was crazy. It took me forever to get caught. By the way, I got to say this. It was a pleasure meeting Dominic and Tom and Brian, Phil, Marcella at Creative Con. I flew back Sunday evening, and I was so tired, and I watched episodes. I binge-watched episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. And now I know who Dominic reminds me of. Mannerisms, personality, appearance, everything. Ray Romano is phenomenal.
Come on, I'm this handsome, strapping guy, and you give me Ray Romano.
I laughed so hard up, and people were like looking at me. I had headphones on, earbuds, but I was laughing because Dominic, I hate to break it to you, you remind me of him, a young Ray Romano, Ray Barone.
You couldn't say like George Clooney or something? What a jerk. Thanks a lot, man. Hey, so Tom had this idea of one thing you learned at the last event you attended. And so I think a lot of people will have attended Creative Con, but whatever you attended. So John Jay says, I look like Ray Romano. Okay. And John Jay's he's like a big teddy bear in person. That's what I learned, that people that John stern and fair, but in person, I wanted to like lift this guy up and hug him. You're a big softy, John.
I have my moments. I really do. When I get really quiet, that's usually because I'm stewing and I got to behave myself.
Okay. All right, Tom, get us straight here. My voice is already hoarse. This is not good. It's like I just went to a Steeler game or something.
Well, how's that possible? You've had time to rest it. You haven't been running around yelling on stage or talking to people for a few days now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. So Tom, what did you learn at the last event you went to? And we can keep going.
Oh man, honestly, there's so many takeaways from Creative Con. I'm not even really sure where to start. But look, what I learned honestly is my biggest takeaway from the event, as one of the partners, one of the organizers of the event. My biggest takeaway, and obviously I'm looking at this through a different lens than the people who were our speakers or our other attendees. But my biggest takeaway is we need more events like this, right? We need more events focused on creative entrepreneurship and supporting people through the process of developing their creative entrepreneurial businesses and brands. That's my biggest takeaways. We need more of these kinds of spaces to support for folks as they start down this road, because it's not an easy road, but there's a lot of people that have gone down this path before and have knowledge, wisdom, experience to share with people who are just starting out. So I mean that's my biggest takeaway is we need more of this.
That's a good answer. I was out at dinner the other day and somebody asked Tom a question, and you ever see that Saturday Night Live skit where Steve Martin says if he could have one wish, if he could have one wish, what would it be, like for Christmas? And Steve Martin says world peace. And so somebody asked Tom like a question, and I said, "Don't you dare say world peace." And I don't know if he knew what I was saying, but that's a beautiful answer that you just gave, And so sometimes when I'll set my kids up and I'll say, "Oh, what do you want? What would you really like to have?" And and they'll give an answer, and I'll say, "Well, I was thinking about world peace. I was thinking about," but your answer there was good. Go on.
I did not get the world peace reference when
No,
you threw that out.
when I said that, you kind of looked at me like you wanted to punch me.
I was like, what? Well, I looked at you like, why would I say that? Like, what?
Okay.
What are you even talking about? I didn't get the reference.
Okay, please clap your hands if anybody knows. Is it the most? Does nobody know this reference, or is it a common reference? And just give me a clap.
I don't see a lot of clapping.
No,
No,
man.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
Brian Swift, do you know the reference?
Oh, John got it.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, it's pretty common.
Okay. John Jay, you know the reference?
Yeah, and I think it gained a lot of popularity in the beauty pageants, Miss America and all that stuff. What do you want?
Exactly.
What do you a world peace?
Okay. So yeah, Tom looked at me like he wanted to punch me the other day, and then now I'm gonna have to send him the skit. Hey,
that wasn't my I want to punch you look. That was my I don't know what you're talking about look. Just to be clear.
Okay, then I will give as we get into this sharing one thing you learned at the last event. Brian Alves likes to wear gloves all night long, and I noticed it every time because I have a ability to lose things, and I lost a pair of gloves, and Brian Alves' gloves looked exactly like the pair of gloves I thought I lost. And now I know they were not, but every time I looked over, I noticed he still got his gloves on, the gloves that looked like my gloves. So that's one thing, but I forget where I was going with that. So John Jay, one thing you learned, and then we'll get to Swifty. Did you give us the thing you learned yet?
I did not. Actually, the one thing that I learned the most is the power and strength of networking. Yeah, there was lots of tips, lots of great things I took away from that, but that was one of the most powerful things. Marcella, Brian, Phil, Debbie, Tom, Dominic, Lauren, who's down in the audience, and if people ask me one more time if I know Lauren I always say the same thing. Yeah, I know her from Clubhouse. Brian as well, and it was the power of networking and getting to put a face to the voice was profound for me.
Well said, John. I felt that same way. I felt like I really wanted to hug each of you, and just there was this whole different vibe. I was like, oh, now I get him a little more. Brian's my dear friend, but I haven't seen Brian for years. It was nice to see Brian again. So Mr. Swift killing it on the stage, man. He was killing it there. Nice hanging out with you and your family. What's something you learned at your last event you attended, whatever event that was, Mr. Swift?
I guess I learned to trust myself when it comes to speaking, and I've always, I guess, as much as I've had the opportunity to speak, I've always kind of had I don't want to call it cheat sheet, but an outline. And I really learned that I do better without it. And it was just kind of a safety net for me. So I learned, I guess, to, trust myself a little more when it comes to getting out there and being on stage. The other thing that I've got to say to everybody who attended, and I don't know if you planned it this way, Tom and Dom, but it was one of the first events that I was at that I didn't get pitched. And I thought that was awesome that, people on stage weren't trying to pitch anybody, anything. Every speech, every encounter that I had, whether it be with Tom or John or other new people, that I met, nobody was pitching, what they did or who they were. And I thought that made the event so much more relaxing, so much, I think we got more out of it. To have an event where people are there truly just to spread their knowledge and share their knowledge and be a resource and meet people and be friends, I think is unique today. So you guys pulled it off. So thank you.
Swifty, love that you recognize that. And Tom pointed at me when you said that, and that was something. There was supposed to be no pitching from the stage. And the other thing that I got along that sense that I'm super proud of, and if in the future, let's say we are able to put them on again and again, we really wanted speakers that would I know we joked about that velvet rope before, that there isn't going to be a velvet rope, and I would think for the rest of my career, if we kept on doing it, I would want speakers that were willing to be in the crowd, to go to breakout rooms and things like that. And if you weren't, you're probably not the speaker for this kind of event. We're looking to build community, and that was you recognizing that was something that I found beautiful. And if it went the other way at all, it wasn't what we envisioned. Kind of like wait.
I didn't see any of it go the other way.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to talk to a lot of people. Unfortunately, not everybody, but at least now I recognize more people. And as many breakouts as we had in networking, still not a chance to really talk to everybody. And the other thing I'll say is, I don't know how everybody else was, but the response I got after I got home, even from people who have messaged me, emailed me, has been truly amazing. You guys have started a great community. I'm very happy and proud to be a part of it.
Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate that. I know Dom really appreciates that too. He's given me the nod as you were saying that. I could see him on the screen here, but yeah, it was very important to us that, when we were putting together this event, all the planning, I mean, we've been working on this and developing this for 6 months, right? Before the event last weekend. So all the time that went into that, we had a lot of conversations about what we wanted it to be like, how we wanted it to feel for the attendees, what we wanted the experience to be like for them. And a couple of things that we decided and were pretty insistent on were those two things that you just highlighted for us. The one that, we weren't going to have people pitch from the stage. That's not the kind of event we were doing. It was not a sales conference. It was not an opportunity for you to get up and hawk your wares, so to speak. So we were pretty insistent that we didn't want our speakers to do that, and I think for the most part we were successful with that. And then the other thing was that we wanted it to be an opportunity for connection. So that was twofold. It was one, why we built in like the networking breaks and made sure there was time for people to interact with each other outside of the speaking sessions and the workshops, and why we wanted the workshops to be interactive. But then also we told all the speakers, in meetings we had with the speakers before the event, that there was going to be no velvet rope, as Dom was saying, that we wanted the speakers to actively engage with everybody, in networking during the event. So yeah, it was, we were taking a bit of a different approach. I think a lot of times you go to these conferences and they just feel like you're just getting pitched nonstop, right? And it's exhausting. It's tiring.
It is.
And it's repetitive and monotonous, and you're just like, oh, I'm over it. Like, halfway into the first day, you're like, I've already gotten pitched to like 8 times. Like, I feel like I'm watching commercial after commercial, and you don't want to be there, right? And you don't really want to actively engage. And so we wanted to make sure we didn't give that same kind of feeling to the folks that attended Creative Con. So I'm really, really glad to hear that we were successful, that landed, that was the impression that was that you walked away with. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Right on. And Swifty did kill it on stage. He killed it as a shark too, and he was bringing the value, and his jokes. Harry Spate pointed out that his jokes were on point too. So Brian was doing well. All right, let's continue. All right, we're talking about the last event you were at, whatever the event was. It could be. I met a guy in the grocery store, and we bonded over Caitlin Clark. He had an Iowa Hawkeye jacket on, And so we just started talking, and I was like, how about that Caitlin Clark? And all of a sudden it turns out that he was at Creative Con too. I ran across the street through a parking lot to get a Diet Mountain Dew. And here I meet a person that was common interest and good guy. Marcella, absolutely stunning in person. We got to hang out with her. Marcella, thank you for jumping up on the stage today. At the last event you attended, whatever that may be, what's something you learned?
Oh, that was dinner with my girls. I learned not to piss off a 12-year-old. Seriously though, I really enjoyed the event last weekend. I do think that there is room for more. We need to do this again. On a personal level, it was challenging being in such a huge crowd. My autism, I mean, I think I had a few meltdowns. And I think that there's room for improvement because that was not something that anybody thought about. And I've talked to Julie about it already that I know of. They were two autistic people. Imagine being able to accommodate more like us so that they can attend an event like this. Also, speaking for maybe I shouldn't speak for them, but I will speak for the LGBTQ community. I thought it was great meeting Chris and some other individuals there. And it would have been even more profound hearing from some of them. I will also say my takeaway, getting to spend alone time with some of you guys, Tom, John, Dragon, that was incredible just to be able to sit and listen. Oh, speak of the devil, I manifested him into this room just now. And biggest lesson from this, I learned that Brian Alves is not a complete asshole. I needed to say that out loud.
Ouch! Whoa, Brian Alves, shots fired, man. And
it was a compliment.
and Brian would like. I loved my time with Brian Alves too. Like the guy, he's like. I think he tries to be grumpy, but spending time with him in person, I absolutely loved him and just wanted to put him in a backpack.
Made me smile a lot and made me very comfortable, and that says a lot because I run on I'm not fake, but I have to revert to a different character to be able to handle these types of situations. And you guys were really great. I just needed to say that. And thank you. And Phil Hill was there. I'm so glad. I didn't even get a chance to speak with Brian after your talk on stage, Brian, but I was glad to be able to see that. I did not get to go to John's workshop, which really bothered me, but that's what I get for letting Julie schedule my flight. And I think that Dragon and I are on the same page on that. But yeah, it was great, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So you guys got to let us know when you're going to plan it.
We're working on it. We can't stop the mojo. You all made it happen. That was what was crazy too. Like sometimes you put some ideas together and it's momentum, whether it's the creative community like Tom and Marcella were saying, and it just took off probably better than we expected. And the things that we're hearing, yeah, holy shit, yeah, it is. This is real, and people did get out of it what we hoped, and they made the connection. So it's crazy. So Phil Hill, last event you were at, whatever event that may be, Phil Hill, I hung out with Phil Hill, yes, good dude. Phil Hill, last event, whatever it was, what's a takeaway?
Hey, so it was Creative Con, and I drove down from Wisconsin for it, and I just had a blast, primarily as a volunteer, but connecting and participating. My takeaway was that the power of listening to someone's story, and it was a multiple because everybody I met there, whether it was just a brush of an arm or a few minutes or longer, I heard their story and I was able to listen in person. I've been around a lot of you guys on Clubhouse, and I've read your bios, and some I hadn't chance to read a bio or meet for the first time at all. So I was hearing your stories for the first time. What I'm saying is that everybody that I met, if I already knew you, I learned something new about you in person, or I learned something new about your story, and it's because I was able to listen and understand you a little better, and then understand your knowledge or experience which is going to help me. And some of you, for the stories for the first time, it was just fresh and new stuff I just can't get in the virtual side. So that, to me, that was the most powerful thing. Is just, it was just warming, and to sit around and hang around with all of you and just hear the new pieces of your stories, and that's cool. So let me tell you real quick stories. I think about Dominic and Tom. I love to hear if you guys want to do. I don't know how your show and tell's going to work out, but you guys had this road trip, and I'm just curious and intrigued of how the snapshot of the road trip. You guys were like a Thelma and Louise, and so Julie's mom and her best friend, I nicknamed them Thelma and Louise, and also nicknamed them, they could also be Laverne and Shirley. Those two were the funnest to be around as volunteers. And I learned more about them each time we walked across the room or did something, and then we came back a few minutes later. I learned something new about each one of those ladies and their husbands and their families and their kids. It was just pretty amazing. Now, you guys say that has nothing to do with creative, but Julie's family was very, very critical in this whole warm success of Creative Con, from top to bottom, from her kids to her dad to her mom, the friends. That was special.
Yeah, it takes a village, and in that case, definitely a family. She killed it, and they did welcome us to Arlington Heights like nobody's business. From pizza parties to parties with violins playing. I mean, it was quite impressive, and they were. Yeah, she had her husband and all the kids bringing trucks and stuff like that. Really, they were working their butts off. I thought about something when you were mentioning the Vilma and Louise. Before I said that Tom wanted to punch me, and he said I didn't want to punch you, but I know on the Vilma and Louise the time, and so we drove probably, what do you think, 16 hours altogether, Tom, that we drove back and forth. So I think I have the time, and I'm going to share it all with you. So we're driving back in Tom's truck and just having conversation and things like that. And my feet were getting cold in the front of his truck. I thought they were a little cold on the way there, but on the way back, I'm like, it's cold in here, but now I'm more comfortable. So I just reached down and turned a dial on his, it said like dual climate or whatever. And I reached down and turned it to a lower blue, and we're going like 80 at the time. And he looked like, took his eyes off the road, stared at my hand like it was slow motion, and gave me this death stare. And like, I was frozen fear. And then, so Tom, you want to explain what happened there?
Yeah. So it was a twofold thing. So like contextually, what you have to understand is my oldest friend, my best friend, is this guy named Alex, right? And Alex loves to push my buttons, right? And I do it to him too. Like, as good old friends will do, like, it's fun to push each other's buttons. I mean, and when I say old friends, like, we've known each other since we were 2 years old, right? So we're like might as well be brothers. Like, we literally grew up together, spent, all of our waking minutes together. We're, entwined in each other's life. Like, I called his mom and dad aunt and uncle. He called my parents aunt and uncle. Like, that was the kind of relationship we had growing up, right? So with that context, one of the things he would do is he would get in any car with me anytime he got in a car, and he would immediately start opening the glove box, taking things out, messing with the dials, checking in the armrest, moving things. He would start moving the mirror so I couldn't see out of the mirror. Like, he would in the car, some of the first cars I had when we were 16 years old and just driving, like, that had manual adjusting mirrors. He would put the window down. He would roll the window down, literally roll the window down, right? Because didn't have power windows in a couple of those cars. Literally roll the window down, reach out and move the mirror so I couldn't see out of that mirror, right? Like, he would just mess with me. And so I have this kind of like knee-jerk response, whenever somebody like reaches for something on the dashboard or whatever, then I'm like, what are they doing? And it's totally a conditioned response, and it's Alex's fault. And if I said that to him, if he was listening to this right now, he would be laughing his ass off because he would find it hilarious that he managed to like get to me to a point where like that's my gut reaction to anytime anybody touches the dashboard. The other side too is that Becky is pretty much the only person that ever rides in my truck with me on a regular basis, right? So like at the end of the day, she never touches that dial because that passenger side climate control dial, temperature dial, because she's always comfortable at a colder temperature. Like often I'll think it's cold and she'll be like, no, I'm fine. So she never feels the need to turn it up because she's comfortable, at cooler temperatures. And so I genuinely was like forgot that knob even did that. Like it's just always been on, because there's a setting, if you dial it, turn it all the way to the left, it syncs it with the dial that's on my side, like the main climate control dial. And it's just been on sync for like, I don't know, the entire time I've owned this truck, right? So like I didn't even remember that you could do that. So like my initial reaction was like, what the hell are you touching? And then I was like, oh wait, that's actually totally fine. Do you. If you want to turn it up a little bit, turn the temperature up a little bit, like do you. Totally fine. A-okay. But yeah, that gut reaction was totally conditioned by like those two things. The fact that Alex likes to mess with me and been doing it for like literally for 30 years. Like he's been messing with me like that every time we get in a car together. And so I can't help myself but react that way. And then, the fact that I've kind of forgotten that dial was for passenger control. So yeah, that was the reaction. That was what caused the reaction. But it was just, yeah, it was funny. It was funny.
He gave me a stare down. Definitely gave me a stare down. All right, so let's go here. Not the smartest guys in the room. We're back. It's Wednesday. We do this every Wednesday. My friend Chris Cushing's there. We're coming, Chris. If you haven't connected with Chris, I think she's new to Clubhouse here. So make sure you connect with her. She's fabulous. So, okay, we will continue. We always say in this room, this is something back to look left, look right. I got this from my friend producer Jimmy. She said, look left, look right, Brady Bunch style. That's what it looks like on this screen. Connect with the person above you. Connect with the person beside you. Schedule a one-on-one. Have a cup of coffee. Who knows what kind of relationship can come from it. So, all right. My friend Debbie Griffiths. Debbie, we've met twice now. We've hung out multiple times. Debbie, at the last event you attended, whatever it was, what did you learn? What was interesting to you?
Well, my last event I attended was this weekend at CreativeCon, and I flew all the way from LA to Chicago, and so glad that I did. To add really, or I can't really add on too much what everybody has already stated, but I really came away with, number one, finally meeting everyone in person that we've been in this room with for at least me a good year, maybe a little bit more a year. So it was great, really connecting in person with everyone that I've come to know and love in this Clubhouse room. That's number one. Number two, the opportunity to network. The whole conference was paced very well. You weren't rushed into anything. You could, but there was structure, which was good. Enjoyed the workshops. Wish I could have attended more. And thanks for doing the CreativeCon book. I'm looking forward to reading, maybe catching up with what I missed. And let's see, the visuals from the speakers. We've heard a lot of good stories, and that came away and really connect. That helps connect people when you hear their stories and see their vulnerabilities. But the visuals of some of the speakers, from Greg Birch, almost squatting on the stage, to convey his point, to Dragon shaking his derriere to remind us to take the information back and take action. To finally our closer, Harry Spade with the visuals of taking a step forward. Take these steps, implement what we learned, because, eventually, not only are we absorbing the information, but we'll be in a position ourselves to help give back. So thank you, Dom and Tom, for a great event. I can't wait for the next one.
Debbie, well said. I'm going to go back to just here real quick. John Jay, did you meet Debbie this weekend?
I did, and we had a good chance to talk a couple times. And now I'm pretty sure that we're going to get her on my radio show. So it was great. I met so many awesome people, and the one message I think I was more able to carry in person than I can on the phone is your power is in your story, and that's what will lead people to follow you. And resonated. It got people's attention. So yeah, I got to meet Debbie, Tom, Dominic, of course, Phil, Dragon. I wish Jason was there. Brian was there. Looking at some other people that I don't see were there, and it was really, really powerful for me.
Yeah. And the reason I came to you real quick about how was like when Debbie, so at one point in CreativeCon, Debbie pitched her story to a bunch of radio hosts and podcasters. Let me preface this. Debbie wrote a book about domestic abuse and gaslighting, and a story that is similar to a journey that she had to walk over the years. So here's Debbie now pitching, getting up on stage and pitching in front of an audience a story that she wasn't able to share for years and years and years, and to stand up there and tell syndicated hosts and podcasters and people with TV shows, here's my story, I own it. And to John's point, that the power of the stories. John, what'd you think about that? That's some cojones, huh?
Yeah, she made a big turnaround, and a couple of people that were not here did as well. And it was the mindset before that. This is what I do. This is what I'm here to sell. Blah blah blah. And that's the exact opposite of what I look for. It's really your story, and then we promote stuff throughout the show. So she really came around big time.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, Debbie. Well done. And I want to say, like, me and Tom talk about this, so like gimmicks and shtick and stuff like that. I know John feels the same way. Like, tell your story, peel it back deeper, deeper, deeper. And I sometimes I get caught up being silly or whatever. But when I talk about that 8 billion and you being the only you. Like, forget what everybody else is doing. Forget somebody else's title. Forget what you saw somebody else do. Get up there and be you, or write and be you and tell your story. That's the superpower. And I can only encourage people to do that more. Tom, thoughts? And then we're going to get to our buddy 7-2.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got nothing to add there. I think you nailed it. The only thing I wanted to just jump back real quick to what you were saying before you went to Debbie, who I was super excited to meet this weekend too. Really appreciated. We've been talking to Debbie. I've been talking to Debbie here in Not the Smartest Guys for years, like literally for the last couple of years. She's been here hanging out with us and spending time with us whenever she can, whenever she's available on Wednesday mornings. And it was really, really nice to be able to meet her in person, to meet everybody in person, to meet John, to meet Phil, to meet Chris, to meet JC, to meet Brian. To meet Lauren, who I guess jumped out of the room, but so many folks who come to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room and have been coming to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room for a while. It was really, really gratifying and a true pleasure to get to meet them in person at CreativeCon. So I'm so glad that if I just being selfish, I'm glad that we put CreativeCon together. Just so we could actually meet so many of the people that have been coming to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room for so long and being a part of this community. So that was really a highlight for me. The other thing I wanted to say, jumping back to before you went to Debbie, was you were saying look left, look right, look up, look down. Let's not forget all the folks who are not on Clubhouse, right? Who are taking in not the smartest guys in the room all over the internet, on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on the platform formerly known as Twitter, on Twitch, all these places where you can see not the smartest guys in the room. You know, make sure that you follow people, look up their names, you know, do a little Google research, you know, click on names, look at who's commented on other LinkedIn or Facebook streams of not the smartest guys in the room. But you know, you'll be able to see everybody's name who's up on stage. You know, you'll be able to see their name through the video feed from this video capture of the Clubhouse room that I do. So make sure that you look folks up, connect with them. I think it's true of everybody in here. You know, none of us are limited to just Clubhouse, right? So definitely reach out, connect via other means, whatever your social media platform of choice is. You know, make sure you reach out and connect. For me personally, I would say LinkedIn primarily, but I know John J. Wiley would probably steer you to Facebook for his community. So whatever your platform of choice is, make sure you reach out, connect wherever you are on the internet. I think everybody here in this room is always looking to grow and expand their networks and help each other continue to move forward and be successful. So just wanted to highlight that. Don't forget, we're streaming all over the internet. We're not just on Clubhouse.
That's a good point, Tom. And when you talk about events, like most of the people there, or at least half the people, I'd never even heard of Clubhouse or didn't know. Like as we taught, well, a lot of us know each other from here. Check out, come stop by Not the Smartest Guys or something like that. So I really came out of it. You know, another thing, like maybe I missed events more than I thought. You know, I loved being with everybody there and learning from everybody and thinking out like Phil Hill one day. I like just in a 5-minute when you're around all these doers, Phil Hill, I got rejected by Amazon. Amazon influencers, Phil, they rejected me one time. And I said, Phil, they already rejected me. I said, I think I have enough followers. I think I'd tell a good story, but I would like to promote things that I believed in. I'd say, hey, buy this tripod. This tripod works for me. I think you could tell better stories using this tripod, whatever. And Phil says to me, Dom, keep trying every day. Try again. Such a simple point, but I had not thought of it. You know, I had not thought, me who preaches persistent had not thought, try again. That all right. He said, submit every day, right? Did you not, Phil Hill? Phil's probably making a video right now. All right, we're on to you, Jason. Jason was one of our big supporters the whole time. We appreciate you, Jason. Last event that you were at, if you want to tell us what you learned, we missed you, my friend, but always appreciate you. What do you got going on?
Last event that I was at, it's called the Aspire Tour, and it has different speakers, and they tour many of the major 50 states and the big cities. And the headliners I got to see was Gary Vaynerchuk, Dave Meltzer, Robert Krovic from Shark Tank, and several others. And that was held here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So that was the last event I'm attended, and there I might be going to VidCon in June or May in Anaheim. So, but I do want to go to Creative Con if once there is one established. So I'll do my best to attend.
So at those events, like the one, let's say the one with Gary V and stuff like that. What?
Oh, Aspire, yeah.
Yeah, Aspire. What was like a massive takeaway for you from going to it?
I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. The one biggest takeaway was from a speaker. I'm not really a big Joe Montana fan, but the way that Joe Montana wasn't a polished speaker related to me more than anything. And it told me something. It was like, well, if I get on a speaker stage, make sure that my story is relatable to any person, and not just try to be like, I hate to say it, but Tony Robbins or or a major speaker who gets paid to go on speaking tours. I think that you have to just be able to say, you know what, this is the thing is, like, I went through a transitional period of, when Joe was talking about from pro football to after football. And I didn't know that he owns, or he's part owner in 950 companies. And, when he first started out after football, he had a lot of his employees basically donate their time and not work for money. Then he sorted out people, and he says, you know what? The relationship I connected with these people who I did not pay, when I started paying them, it was the gas. He said it was the gas that gets the machine going, and people are excited to work with me. I know they're being real. They're not starstruck by my Hall of Fame career. They're really interested in it. And he's in a lot of tech that I didn't realize. So that made him relatable. And that's the thing is, you can be a speaker, but it's how you relate to people in your stories when you're on stage. Because, like, so the other speakers, I mean, yeah, Gary's impressive and David Meltzer is impressive, but I just didn't get the draw. And it felt like I was at a sales pitch meeting for real estate, entrepreneurs in real estate. And I'm like, nah, I'm not down for this. But I'm glad that, because I almost just walked out. But when I heard Joe speak, it was moving. And I'm not even a 49er fan. I'm a New York Giants fan. So yeah, that was the biggest takeaway for me.
All right, so just let me pick your brain here a little bit. So Joe Montana was less polished on the stage, but you connected with the story more. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So if you were coaching a speaker, how do you, let's say me or Phil or Chris is going to get up on stage. What would you suggest based on what you saw there? And that's a hard ask, but I think it's really relevant.
The one thing I would say that comes to mind is, imagine you're talking, me and you are just talking. Let's just say that. And the stage is not even there. Imagine me just talking to Dom. That's where I would get, like, what's the kind of relationship you would have with a good friend? Believe it or not, in your language, you're using your word, they call them word lexicons. That's the most familiar words that you use in your verbiage, in your language every day. And what happens is, I think in a lot of speakers, they'll use dead lexicons. That means they're words that don't come out of you naturally. They live in a space of intelligence, but it's not relatable. So when you're speaking, imagine that you're talking to the most familiar, easygoing friend that you can be yourself with, and work on that. Because, I mean, I've done speeches, in front of some groups, and the one thing that some people told me is like, the way that I can, like, I'm imagining I'm talking to a friend. And that's what Joe did. Joe didn't wander from right to left on the stage. He didn't move all over. He sat in front of another individual. I can't remember his name, and he just was talking. And then he would look to the camera and just, he would gradually wave, or acknowledge people, but he would be talking not like as if he were selling something. So it's that conversation piece where you move into familiarity and where you're easygoing. But how do you do that on a stage like Creative Con? That takes a little bit of just rehearsal and imagination. Imagine before you're there, and not adding anxiety, but adding the familiar feeling that you're in the best space you can possibly be. Could be your home, could be somewhere else, a pub, wherever. So that's what I would say.
All right, good stuff, man. Appreciate you. And you're on point, man. It was good stuff. Not the smartest guys in the room every 9:30. Tom says we're streaming a lot of places. We're back. I'm getting a new hard drive on my computer this week, so I won't get kicked off as much because my computer won't be running at 150% when I first turn it on, and I'm running no programs. I realized that I jump around a lot just in this room. I might be noticing something here. When Tom said, when Dom was talking about this and I realized it was 9 subjects. I had switched the subject here 9 times since then. So, all right, well, that's just how it's going to go. All right, JC was our MC, and he kicked kick the S. He got the S out of there. JC brought us a visual at one point where he brought a large emoji looking. It looked like emoji. It looked like a poo emoji, and it was an inflatable. And he encouraged everybody, whatever's in your head, the stuff holding you back, just kick it away. And he kicked a large emoji of poo across a large room. So, JC, thanks for everything you did, man. We appreciate you. And what's going on at the last event you attended, JC? Whatever it may have been, what's something you learned?
Well, one of the things I just want to share something about this event. What I thought was unique about this event is that all of the people that were involved in it, from you guys that put it on, to the speakers, to the people in the crowd, and I see a lot of these people here that I've now had the opportunity to meet. I guess I would say I was pleasantly surprised to see that you guys all translate much better in person. I mean, obviously I'm a member of the tribe, and I'm a fan, and I follow a lot of you guys, and I like being in this room and stuff. But it's not always that case. Social media allows us to kind of hide behind a protective curtain and project ourselves in our highlight reel. But it's like I walked into the hotel, and I think the first person I met was John Wiley. And I've always respected John, but there was a certain element of like being a little afraid of John because of his voice. But what a special guy, just like what an awesome, authentic guy, and just meeting all. So that's one of the things about this particular event that is not always the case, is just these are good people. I always kind of knew that and made that assumption. But this is the kind of group that I would like to grow with. You know what I mean? So, for anybody that hears this and didn't get a chance to come to that event, that's what made this event unique. It was like, I love the no BS conversations that we have in here, but this is a good group of people, and it was validated, for me. I would say my biggest takeaway of this particular event was just this concept of the creative process. It's like I just met so many people that have such wonderful stories and such great ideas. And I just want to give Debbie congratulations to you. You did such a great job pitching on stage, and just so much respect for anybody that even does that. So great job. A lot of respect for you. But yeah, the creative process, it's a process. It's there's so many people could be doing so much more in life if they just learned how to, and then executed, share their story. So this event was perfect for that. I think a lot of people have this like rumbling in their belly right now about like just leveling up. And that was my biggest, so I came home looking to see where I could level up too. So yeah, it was great. Thanks so much, everybody, for all the work you did.
You rocked it, man. And JC's handsomer in person. Absolutely. Just really a good guy. Like you said, there's everybody I met, one person after another. I'm like, I love this person, love them. Nobody came. And I was like, whoa, just like JC said, nobody came.
That's what I was thinking, Dom.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't leave there thinking like, ooh, I didn't like that guy or that girl.
Yeah, like, oh, he's really a jerk. No, I thought, man, I wish I could hang out with him more. I want to have a beer with them or whatever. I want to see what they're involved in next. Like the next morning, I'll tell you, like me and Tom drove, and we had somebody come from Australia, but admittedly, I'm still tired. Like I'm still tired, but like Monday morning, I could barely get out of bed, and I saw JC was live on doing his show, and I'm like, I want to jump in there. I'm like, I need a JC fix. It's been it's been a day, but I same with, I need more of all these people. So, okay, let's go on here. Not the smartest guys in the room. Hey, I will say the best compliment I got. You could tell me how great of an event it was, how much you got out of it, that it changed your life. I'm selfish, and I'll tell you how selfish I am. I grew up and I used to get beat up all the time and had like big buck teeth that stuck out of my head, and it was real skinny. The best compliment John was by John Jay, and this like I lift weights, but I lift weights and don't end up with any more muscles. And I look at myself and like, why isn't my muscle bigger? Why aren't my trapezoids bigger? Whatever. John Jay said, "You're bigger than I expected," and I could have went home right then. I had achieved my highest. Somebody in my life finally said, "You're bigger than I expected." So, John, thank you for that. He's like, "Oh, I just said it as a joke. He was smaller than I thought." But go on, Tom.
I was going to say, I think he said that. I think John said he expected me to be taller.
Yeah.
I did. I was kind of shocked that Dominic was taller than I thought he was, and bigger in girth and size, and Tom was smaller and leaner than I thought. And that's because of I don't know his voices, but it's the theater of the mind. But it's seeing the photos and how far away you are from the camera, how close you are to it. So that was pretty profound. But I enjoyed meeting both of you immensely.
Yeah, no, I mean, the feeling is very, very mutual. I mean, I already had a lot of respect for you, John, from the conversations we've had in here. And it's funny, I think sometimes people think that we disagree on everything. I think we agree a lot more than we disagree. But I think regardless, there's mutual respect because we're both people who tend to take positions only after, well reasoning them through. So I think, I was really happy to meet you, and everybody else, like I said before. I think it was a great experience, overall, getting to meet everyone. Particularly Dom. I mean, we kind of joked about it, right? Like, but he and I have been doing this, for literal years. Like, it is not an exaggeration at all to say that we've been hosting a room together, and doing this live stream for literally years together. And until last week, we had never met in person. So that was, I mean, that was cool. That was fun. It was fun to, get to do that drive. It was probably 16 plus hours, between 16 and 17 hours between the drive from Pittsburgh to Chicago and then the drive back. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I only threw him one dangerous look when he touched the temperature knob on the climate control. But then I took it back. So I think we were all good. I think it was a fun road trip, both directions. And then I echo what Don was saying about being tired still. I mean, I literally got home at 5:30 last night and had to unload my truck and get back into the house and spend some time with my wife, have dinner with her, after not seeing her for almost a week. So yeah, I mean, it was like I woke up this morning and then I had to put my whole office back together because, for anybody who watches this live stream, I live stream. My office is basically set up as a studio. Well, I disassembled my studio and took a bunch of my equipment to Creative Con. That's why I drove. And then, so this morning I had to spend a little over an hour putting my office back together and actually getting things back up and running so that, so we could do the room, so we could be here, not the smartest guys in the room. So, it's been a busy week. I feel like I'm ready for a weekend right now. But it's only Wednesday. So I'll make it through the next couple of days. I'll be all right, but I'm definitely a little bit tired this week. So I echo that sentiment. But yeah, how about, is Chris up next, Dom? Is that right?
You got it. Chris is a superstar. Chris she has a whole. Chris rolls deep, man. She has a whole crew with her at all time. That's how you know somebody is a leader and an influencer when like 15 people surround her at all time. It's kind of like you have to like um, just fight your way to the center there, Chris. How do you pull that off? And Chris, what did you learn at the last event you were at? And tell us how you developed such an entourage.
Wow. Well, great morning, everybody. I think for me, the most important thing about Creative Con, which was the last event I was at, the key word is authenticity. And it started from the moment that, you guys and Julie, JC, Heidi got together and decided to do this. You all are authentic and you attract authentic people. So there was no other way that honestly this event could have been but authentic, because you attracted it and everybody just spread it. Everybody just spread the authenticity. It was incredible. I feel like, unfortunately, Jason, the event that you were at, it was lacking that. It certainly was not at Creative Con. Everyone was supportive authentically, and all of the resources that were available to us were not just available as like, hey, yeah, I'm here on this stage, you have me for this moment in time, and that's it. The connections that we made and the people that spoke are now in our back pocket as resources that we can reach out to anytime. And that is a rarity. And I'm so thankful that I went.
Wow, that is very nice of you, Chris. And it was a pleasure to meet you, hang out with you, and see that beautiful smile. And isn't there a power in a smile? Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we don't recognize that. Chris is so welcoming. So I would suggest anybody, if you can, flash those pearly whites. It really helps people gravitate to you, and then all of a sudden you don't have an entourage like Chris does. Hey, okay, we're rolling around. We got Carrie Beth, Jamie, we got Julie in the house. Julie, we've been talking about you. We were talking about events that people went to, so we're coming. So don't ditch us. We're talking about events people have been to, whatever that event was, and from it. And so we're talking takeaways. And this event that keeps coming up, it's Creative Con, that's cool. But whatever that, we want to know what you got out of it. Carrie Brett, what do you got?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it was amazing. I'm still getting my voice back, but it's so interesting to see how everyone was better looking, taller, more impressive, nicer. It just was so cool that everyone just was more than you could ever hope for. That part I loved. I also thought it was hilarious how many people were afraid of John J. Wiley because he's the nicest person. But that was
funny.
It is so funny, John. And how we're like split from birth, just both being Irish, and that was really fun. So we had our highlights, but it was a wonderful trip. I think Chris hit the nail on the head when saying the authenticity just reigns supreme for sure. And I can't speak more highly about it. I think I'm going to be tired all week from it, but it was worth it. It was like that sleepover you went to that you pay the next day, but who cares? It was so incredible. So I was honored to be there.
That's a good way to put it. That sleepover that you went to that was tired. That would be. I need you to write an endorsement and say it's like that sleepover you go to. You're tired from it, but go on. That was good stuff, Carrie. It was a pleasure meeting you. Glad you were able to come out, and Carrie did a good job pitching too. John Jay, since you were on the pitch panel, what'd you think about Carrie pitching to the panel, sharing her story?
Well, she made an immediate gut level response reaction that I know my listeners are looking for, and that as a radio host and podcast host, that's what I'm looking for. Someone to punch me in the mouth and get right into it. And Carrie really made a big transition.
Yeah, she did, and I was listening, and the more she got, like, as more comfortable she was with how she was going to message and share her story, it was impressive. So good stuff. All right, let's keep it rolling. This train's bound for somewhere. Okay, Beth, looks like she's got a race car beside her. I wonder whose race car this is. It looks like one. I go to the dirt track sometime. Dirt track once a year. I love the dirt track. They sell bags of beer at the dirt track. So you just go up, they put ice on ice, and you say, how many you want? I said, what's the limit? I think they told me the limit was like 16 or something in a bag that they give you. Then you go down to the track. This is the place to be. Okay, Beth, last event you attended. What did you learn?
Oh, hold on. I just want to say hello to all of y'all. I have not been to a dirt track since I've been probably 20. So I don't think I knew that they gave bags of beer there or sold bags of beer.
Maybe not all. The one I go to, it's Epic Lernerville. It's in Pennsylvania. And I just got introduced to the dirt track probably in the last 5 years. And now, like, when you step out of your comfort zone, try something new. I look forward to this dirt track. It's loud as hell. All my clothes are ruined when I leave, but I love it. It's America. It's best. Go on, Beth.
No, it sounds fun. I want to go. Next time I come to West Virginia, I'll make sure to head up to Pittsburgh in that area to meet y'all and go. But no, I've just been sitting here listening because I think it is absolutely amazing. I am so I don't want to use the word proud. I'm excited for you guys because the excitement I've heard from everyone that spoke about coming to your event, there's excitement in them. And I can remember sitting in rooms with you guys and you're trying to figure it out. And you're like, we're going to do this. We're going to do it. And you did it. That's the most exciting part. You did it. And I'm sorry I couldn't have been a part. I would have loved to have flown out there with John. Next time, I'll make sure I hop on a plane with John and we'll come out. Maybe we'll intimidate together. The cop's wife and the cop. We'll see what happens.
Well, we definitely had some blue line representing. So you could have your own crew. So John, what do you think about that? We could have a whole blue line class.
There could be a ton. You have no idea how many are in this podcasting space and live streaming space now. It's incredible.
Yeah, right on, man. All right, so we used to call her the Pied Piper of Clubhouse. We call her our heart and soul of Creative Con, the media caster, the one who welcomed us to Arlington Heights, welcomed us with Luminati's and violins. So, Julie Loken, the question is, one, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. What if you attended any events recently? I don't know if you did or did not. What did you learn? Go on, Julie Loken.
I just attended an event this past weekend. I don't know. And I don't want to be redundant because I know I've been talking a lot about it, but I knew, like, just from working with Dom and Tom and Heidi, that this event was going to be something so special that everyone would leave with feeling like family. And I think we nailed it, guys. So let's give ourselves a big hug, high five. Because
you crushed it, not nailed it. You crushed it.
Oh, thanks, Chris Cushing. She's crushing it.
Julie, did you know this, by the way, since Chris reached out, how deep Chris's entourage was?
Well, tell me. I mean, I knew she had an entourage, but everyone, like, I'm getting so much feedback all the time, and I know no one's going to be like, "Oh, it sucked," to my face, right? We're going to send out an anonymous survey to get, like, to see if the things we can work on. But so many people were like, "That Chris Cushing, she just is such an amazing spirit. Like, her spirit was just out of this world." And with Dom and Tom, I mean, just the feedback is so overwhelming. I don't know about you guys. My heart is so full just by the feedback. And I think I think if anything, that was my biggest takeaway, that if you dream it, you can do it and you can change lives. And I'm not saying Dom, Tom, I, and Heidi changed lives, but everyone who attended changed someone's lives. Like the connections behind the scenes, outrageous. Like I can't even believe all these people that have connected, and are there's like 4 accountability groups that popped up that I had no idea about. I just heard because I was just on Breakfast with Champions. Dora Maria was telling me about it to the room. You know, just all these things I didn't even know that went on that are so positive. And I just feel like when we're on a journey, we're all on the same journey. And when you have somebody to go on it with you and you know you're not alone, it's so powerful. And I'm just so grateful for everybody here.
Good stuff, Julie. We appreciate you. Don't go around. Don't leave anywhere. I see our friend Peter down there. I met Peter. I hung out.
This is Peter's first time probably, and Terry too.
And once in a while, I might indulge in a frosty beverage. I admit it. And Peter was one. I hung out, had frosty beverage with Peter. Great dude. So he's a storyteller.
He has to tell you what happened from this event, because there's big news.
He's thinking about starting. He's on the verge of starting the podcast, taking that step.
He started a radio show.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Start a radio show. Okay, so we're gonna let
because
him.
Of this event.
I'll send him an invite to come up, and he'll figure out. He might be doing something where I know he has a day thing going on where he is not able to come up on stage. But if he isn't, go on. Hey Terry, what's going on? I think I sat with Terry for a little bit, maybe. Terry, last event you were at, what did you learn from it? What do you got for us?
Well, I was at Creative Con and we did speak, but I was a volunteer and Julie's right-hand girl, and probably didn't get to connect with as many people because of all the behind-the-scene things that I was trying to help navigate so that things were seamless for the guests. I would say the thing that I learned is next time to just be more present and make connections. Even though I wasn't an attendee, I felt like I wasn't really exactly worthy of getting involved as much. And I wish I wouldn't have felt that way. So next time I will be more engaging with people, because I think I missed a lot of the connection.
Oh man. Well, and Terry, as soon as I didn't recognize you with the sunglasses on there, different, but I did have some chats, and that's interesting. I thought wouldn't it be interesting that, let's say, whatever event that you had, and I know we had some volunteers come up on the stage at the end, but if every volunteer from everywhere, everybody that worked on it in any way, come up on the stage. So well said. Okay, let's hear. That's why All right, continue. Stick around. So we're going to go over Clubhouse here for just 1 second for anybody that's new on. Go on.
I was going to say, Dom, can I just jump in 1 second? Because we got a quick second. We've gone through. I think everybody up here has had a chance to chat really quick, and so I just wanted to share.
Go on.
I just wanted to share. So last week, well, not last week, the week before, the last time we did, not the smartest guys in the room, which was 2 weeks ago. We took last week off because I was busy driving to meet Dom for the first time. But 2 weeks ago, my friend Chris posed a couple of questions on Facebook that we relayed into the group, and he's watching on YouTube now. But he posted a couple of comments, and he just wanted to say he asked me to pass on his thanks to Brian Swift, John Wiley, JC, and you and me, Dom, for the feedback he got a couple of weeks ago when he was asking questions about how to do a better job marketing for his business and connecting with folks and building community, and finding some success. So I just wanted to make sure that got passed back to everybody. I am going to have to give Chris some grief. He and I have been friends for a long time, and for some reason, he's watching on your YouTube channel, Dom. So I'm going to have to give him some grief about watching on your YouTube channel and not my YouTube channel. But I'm just kidding. I don't care where he watches as long as he watches. But yeah, I just want to make sure we pass that on. We all talk to each other here in the room. We say thank you to each other. We appreciate each other and say that out loud when we share feedback. But we are reaching a broader audience, right? There are more people than the group of us that are just here in this room that are talking to each other. Other folks are benefiting from, learning from, and asking questions from this room and of the experts and the community that we have here. So I wanted to make sure you guys all know that. Receive those thanks from Chris. He's a very sincere guy, although he's a retired former stand-up comedian, and would definitely break everyone's chops if he got to know you and meet you and spend some time with you in person. He is bigger than you think. He's about 6'3" and he's a big dude. But anyway, he is very sincere, and if he asked me to pass on his thanks, he genuinely is appreciative, and I wanted to make sure that everybody here knew that. So for Brian Swift and John J. Wiley and JC, who all contributed to answering his questions a couple of weeks ago, appreciate you guys. Thanks for helping a buddy of mine out.
Well done, my friend, and well done, everybody here. The one thing we try to do is every week, you are the experts. The people in this room are the experts. Like, I am in the book publishing world. I help people write books. I don't know jack really about podcasts except for being a guest on a podcast or trying to present myself better, maybe pitching to them. But there might be people in the room that know about microphones, that know about radio, that know about different ways to pitch yourself via media and production. And that's what this room is every week. We try to bring the experts in and just have these open conversations where somebody might come in and say, what do you do about Facebook marketing? And somebody gives this idea. And we never say that one person is right or wrong. It's an open, safe space, meaning if you act like a jerk, we are going to kick you out. If you go after people, for the most part, well, that's not our thing. We're just saying, hey, this person sees it this way. This person sees it this way. Look at it and do whatever the hell you want. There is not right or wrong. One might work for you and one works for the other, but we talk about all these things, so you never know which way it's going to go. And then Creative Con was an idea that this omnipresence, that is important. All these things involve production. If you want to be a podcaster, you're going to need to write your message down at some point. You're going to need, if you want to be on video, you're going to have a story. If you want to write a book, you might have to promote at some point. So you might need to be on a podcast, or you might need to turn your phone around. So that's we call it omnipresence, and be able to all these things where it isn't that you just do one of these things. And in 2024, you can't just do one thing. I spoke to some authors at Creative Con, and some people, they were like, I didn't know I needed this. I didn't think about these other things until I got here. And you think, wow. Even when I was in some of the breakout rooms, I was listening to Greg Birch, and he was talking about certain things you can do on social media, and going into common groups and asking questions and connecting with people. I'm like, that's a good idea. Commenting on the most popular post, or on the most popular comment. Yeah, basic idea to grow. So, all right, we will continue. Not the smartest guys in the room. 1048, Peter. The microphone goes on, the microphone goes off. I tell you that if it is your first time on Clubhouse, you hit the little microphone down in the corner. Then we're talking about the last event you were at. Have at it, my friend. And I see a few people with little tickets. We'd love to have you back. And so there is a place where you can follow the room. If you connect with anybody, you tend to get pinged if they're in a room. We only do this room once a week. So you would get pinged when this room goes live again. So Peter Mata, what's up? What say you, Peter?
What's up with me? I'm working right now.
I knew
Driving
that,
this
man.
FedEx
So
truck.
I'm
That's
glad
why
you
I
came
got
up.
that. Yeah, that's why I got that mic off, because this truck's loud. Terry knows.
We feel you. So Julie said you had some exciting news. Tell us your exciting news, my friend.
Well, I did my first podcast last night. I didn't post it or nothing, but I think it went all right. I think it went pretty well for my first time.
All right, you didn't waste any time. 2 days. He said, "I'm going to take this step." Go on. What?
Yeah.
Practicable action.
Practical action. There you go. Is that the name? What's the name of your show? You have that yet?
See, and I'm okay. That's my problem.
Not yet,
I'm
not yet.
debating. Yeah, I'm debating on what to call it.
Okay, John Jay, this is your space. We're going to give you some help. So first,
I need something catchy.
So, John Jay, Peter is considering starting a podcast. I will let you take over. Go on, Peter, John, Jason. What do you got for him? Carrie?
Well, knowing Pete the best out of anybody in this room, I feel like I want to call it uncensored, funny, pee your pants something. This man is the funniest person I know. And I'm just going to tell you, when he's angry, I cannot control my laughter. He is hilarious. I have worked with Pete for almost 3 years. And you guys, he is pee your pants funny. Hilarious.
Pete in your pants. How about that? Pete in your pants.
That we can't do that.
That is not a good title. Pete in your pants.
Yeah.
Okay,
How
John.
about, how about Rambling Man?
I just
How about
actually,
Rambling Man?
I thought after
Well,
I heard you guys
hold
say
on,
it.
everybody. How about one at a time?
hold
Let's all
on.
start
Okay.
stop talking over each other. How about one at a time?
Okay, so
Can you mute Peter?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go on. So next up, Jason. Ask Pete what we want to do with Pete here. He's working on a podcast. What should the title be? Jason, then John.
Well, is he a truck? He's a trucker, right? So look up Rambling Man podcast and see if that's even used.
He is a FedEx. We work for FedEx Express.
Okay. So I don't think we know what his show does yet. So John Jay, go on. We got somebody starting a podcast and looking for a title. Suggestion?
I got one, Dom, when you're ready.
Go on. We'll go you and then Carrie. Carrie, you have a podcast, so shout it loud. Go on, Carrie. Or Jason first. Go.
Express to You with Peter.
Okay, go. Oh, Peter, we're troubleshooting these. I don't think
I'm trying to forget about FedEx. I don't want anything to do with FedEx, FedEx Express, nothing.
I was going to say the key question here is, what is the podcast about? So Peter, what's the podcast about? What are you talking about? What questions are you answering?
Talk about anything. I can talk about anything. Like, I don't really know. I'm just going to talk about, I don't know, maybe reality TV, maybe have somebody on, find out their story, just everything.
Okay.
I just want to make people laugh. No matter what I talk about, I just want people to laugh.
Okay, I gotcha, and that's a good intention, right? But I think, like, my advice to you would be, you gotta pick a subject, right? Because ultimately, whenever you're creating a podcast, and I'm sure John J. Wiley would back me up on this, right? He said he stepped out to go record some voice tracks, but I don't know if he's listening or not. But I'm sure he would back me up on this. One of the first things you have to do if you're starting any episodic show, right? And a podcast is an episodic show. It's an episodic series. You do episodes of a podcast, right? So anytime you're starting an episodic show, you have to create a format, right? Because what you have to do is set expectations for the audience, right? So you have to create a format. You have to decide what it's about and decide what the format's going to be, so that you can attract an audience who wants to listen to that thing, right? So you have to say, it's this podcast, and in each episode of the podcast, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? And that way, your audience, every time they tune in, they know they can expect to hear X, Y, and Z, right? It's that consistency over time that allows you to build trust with an audience. And that is the secret sauce. That's the magic. It's not a secret. I shouldn't even call it secret sauce. I take it back. It's the magic that allows you to build a community around an episodic piece of content, right? It's that trust, and that trust that you develop from showing up and delivering on that set of expectations, that format that you've created for your audience over and over and over again, right? And it's the same. I'll make a quick analogy. I know you're trying to get away from FedEx in terms of like subject material, right? But it's like what you do for FedEx, right? Like your regular clients that you deliver to all the time, right? They know that they can count on you to show up and either drop off or pick up their packages, every time you say you're going to do it, or on a regular time during the day, or a regular day during the week when you have scheduled pickups at businesses or whatever, right? Like that, like clockwork. They know they can count on you, and they trust you to deliver their packages or pick their packages up. But the only reason they trust you is because you've demonstrated to them that you're consistent, that you can be dependent on, right? And that's what you have to do with an episodic podcast, is you have to develop that consistency over time. So that would be my first thing, is like, before we even worry about naming it, right? And we could go around in circles and everybody could throw out, words that sound good together. But the first thing you should do, I think, is figure out what you want it to be, right? Figure out what that format is, what you want to talk about, what subjects you want to include, who you want to have on the podcast. Answer those questions first, and then you can come up with a name. Because otherwise, you're going to end up with a name that doesn't fit the show, and you're just going to end up changing it anyway, right? And you've already put time and effort and put that name out in the world, and then you're going to confuse people because you have to rebrand it, like from jump. So that would be my advice, is set that format first. And then once you know that format, come back and tell us what you're going to do, and we'll help you come up with a name. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me. I mean, I didn't even think about all that, but yeah.
Can I weigh in just with my
Yeah,
branding back?
we'll go
back-
Carrie,
Okay.
Brett, and then Beth. Go on, Carrie.
Okay, great. So Peter is hilarious and so much fun, and his gifts is his live comments. And so what we're trying to tell him is, and he can change his name, or he can make tweaks along the road, honestly, because I did that. I started with the swiping soiree. Originally, my show was going to be The Right Way to Tinder. I didn't want to give all that to Tinder. And then I came up with Shot at Love. But I was building all these things while I didn't even have the name, and it didn't even matter. So just wanted to say that. But what we're trying to show here is that you're a radio personality. You're an on-air presence, and people need something to hold on to. So, not the smartest guys in the room. John J. Wiley, when he starts his show, I'm a retired cop. That's the first thing he says. And people connect to that. I'll have a shutters go off, and I talk about photography. I talk about being a dating expert. So people know who they're tuning into. So what I was thinking is something like Behind the Wheel, Life on the Road with Package Pete. So ridiculous. But I don't know. You want to punch him in the face, like John says. You want to have something that people remember, be memorable. That's one thing I did on online dating. Be a little edgy, take a chance, try out a couple of things. Right now, your life behind the wheel, your life on the road, laughing and life on the road. That's what you're doing. So you're picking up stories along the way. I was thinking, like, shipping up to Boston, we have that song. I don't know. I'm trying to think, but those are some thoughts I have initially.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, we are going to go to Beth, and then real quick on the subject, and we're going to see what Simon learned at the last event he attended, whatever that was. Beth, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with Carrie here, and I'm sitting here just masterminding in my own head, of how cool a podcast would be if you did even the name package, Pete, or kicking boxes, and people would come onto your podcast and tell about their experiences with the deliveries that they get, and then your experiences delivering them. And the stories are funny. My friend's in a whole bunch of different FedEx, like whatever you call them, territories. And their stories are so funny, but they would never do a podcast. But that's what's rolling around in my head for you, Peter.
All right, Peter, you're going to come back. You're going to think about all. Julie, you wanted to add something, and then we're going to Simon. Go on.
Well, hold on. I was just going to say, Peter wants to. I was like, let's pump the brakes on the name,
Okay.
right? Because everybody's suggesting names that revolve around the fact that Peter is a FedEx Express delivery driver. But Peter said right from jump, I want to get away from delivery and packages and FedEx, right? So like, I just want everybody to pump the brakes. I get it because it's easy. It's like, package P, like the alliteration is straightforward. I get the desire to want to go there, but like I was listening to Peter when he said he wants to get away from delivery and FedEx. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, Peter, once you decide what the podcast is going to be about, because that's the thing, like that's one of the common denominators I think we just heard, is that like, oh, if you make it about this, then this is a good name for it. Oh, if you make it about this, then this is a good name for it, right? So spend that time, and feel free to reach out too. Like if you want to spitball, brainstorm, send me an email, ask questions, whatever the case may be. I mean, everybody knows that like my door is always open, right? So if you want to reach out. But I would say go do the work of figuring out what it's going to be, what the format is going to be, how you're going to execute this podcast, and then put in the work on the name, right? So that's what I think. What do you think, Pete? Does that sound like a good plan? Are you happy with that?
I mean, it sounds like a good plan, yeah. But like, I don't want to limit myself to just talking about like certain things. Do you know what I mean? Some podcasts, they only talk about this or they only talk about that. That's what I don't want to do that either. Do you know what I mean?
No, I got you. I totally get it. I mean, like, and I get it so much that you're literally in a room that was built around that idea, right? Like this live stream that we do every week, Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, was built around like the title of it, how we deal with this room, how we move the conversation, what we talk about was all centered around the idea that we didn't want to limit ourselves to too narrow of a topic area. What we wanted to do was really focus on bringing in experts, giving people a forum to ask questions, to get tips, to work through, problems. Like really, this room has always been all about that. So I'm 100% with you. Your format doesn't have to be limiting. It just has to be a little bit clear, right? You can't be. It reminds me of the quote, and I don't remember who was credited with this first, but it reminds me of the quote: if you try to be everything to everyone, you'll end up being nothing to no one, right? So like you can't go and just try to say nothing is off limits. We're going to talk about everything. Well, we don't talk about everything in here, right? I mean, we limit it a little bit. We kind of try to focus a little bit. But the goal of the room is not so much the topics that we talk about, but what we do in the conversations that we have, right? So it doesn't have to be just the topic. It could be the way you talk about stuff, right? Or the way you structure the conversations you have. That could be the format. It doesn't have to be limited to, just one thing, right? It doesn't have to be limited to talking about reality TV. Right. So that's just bear that in mind. It doesn't have to be limited, but it does have to have some kind of structure. Right. And our structure here is a little bit loose, but there's a structure. Right. And I think everybody that comes here week after week recognizes that. You have something to add, Terry?
I do. So I know where it's confusing for Pete. Like I said, knowing him the best that I've known him, he is really good at off the cuff. We are really good at bouncing things off of each other and the conversation. And I think this is where he's going to struggle with finding that niche like you're talking about, Tom, because the conversation will go in 17 different directions, and it is all based on what has happened at that moment. And that is where he's funny, because he's witty, he's quick, he's sassy, he's raw, and he is probably the most offensive person I know. And he knows that I say
Shut
that.
up.
You are Pete. Shut up yourself. But what I'm saying is, that is who Pete is. And I think if we can help him find what that is going to be, I almost feel like he feels literally that's going to put him back in a box, because then he feels like that's part of his creativity. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, but knowing him, that's why I'm like, he's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. He just wants to be willy-nilly free and just be him. But I think he's definitely going to need help with the structure on that. For sure.
Right.
Terry, good stuff. And we got you, Pete. You got to come back, and we're going to dig into this more.
Yeah.
But for today, we're rolling. What, Tom?
I was just going to say, I think just to be clear, when we talk about creating a format, I'm not talking about limiting what you talk about, right? Because that's not what we do here. That's not the goal, right? Like, we don't script this conversation. Obviously, there's no way we could, right? So you don't have to do that. So what I'm saying is, like, you just have to pick a road and stay on that road, right? And that's it. So I think that's the idea. That's what we're saying. So I'm not saying limit yourself, but I think, yeah, I agree with Dom. We'll move on for now, but like, go put in some work on that, Peter. Figure out what you want to talk about, what, broad strokes, what you want the concept to be. And then you just got to, once you pick that road, you just got to stay on that road. But you can go right lane, left lane, you can turn around. It doesn't matter, just as long as you stay on the road. Right. So,
there it is. I think you should say pick that road with Peter, because that way he can go lane to lane. He can talk about, he can be the wild, go right, go left.
All right.
Go right. It's like Contra. Left, right, BA, select, start.
Yeah,
I have no more patience. We're moving on.
There you go. Let's move on.
Moving on. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. We do this every week. At about this point, this is almost when we leave. Tom gives us a wrap up. First, we're talking to Simon. Simon, last event you attended. I'm going to Simon, then Julie flashed. But Simon, last event you attended, what did you learn? It could be in person. It could be anywhere. It could have been a running. What do you got, Simon? Missed you, man.
Yeah, good to see you, Dom, Tom, everybody. I just wanted to say Dom and Tom, Tom and Dom. It just has that rolling off the tongue thingy-majiggy. Yeah, the old clubhouse community for me is growing again, and so there's actually quite a few rooms on, so haven't been in as much, but it remains one of my favorites on here, so good to be back. Well, as I think you know, Dominic, because you can see my threads, I manage extremely difficult mental illness every day, so haven't been out and about as much. I am returning to marathon running this year at some stage. However, probably the last thing was when I was out in Portugal. So I did a month out in Portugal. Well, actually, I was in Paris for Christmas. Very nice. Can recommend that for Christmas. Running up around Eiffel Tower. And then I went to Porto in Portugal for a month. And what do I learn out there? Well, I deliberately go to countries where I don't speak the language. Me speaking broken Spanish in a place that doesn't actually speak Spanish, it speaks Portuguese, but it sounds sometimes like a Spanish kind of thing. I like putting myself, I think you might know, Dominic, I like putting myself right out there. I call it stretching in NLP. I like putting myself into these places where I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what the lingo is, the languages kind of thing. And it pushes me out of that comfort zone, because what I'm doing is I'm recceing a 63-mile run, which will go the length of, which will go from Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, up to Santiago, which is, it's the end of a Camino, so it's the end of like a religious walk kind of thing. But I'm going to run it because I ran across Spain in 2016 and did the other Camino from France to Portugal. So I'm putting myself out in that place again, and actually, what was I learning out there in the past with my running? Haven't had patience, haven't paused, was driven by coming from a place of fear and negativity. Whereas this time, I'm going to go slower, which for me is quite hard to go slower and pause and take in the scenery this time and run it in a completely different way, because I'm changing now. I'm in my 50s. I'm changing how I'm running and why I'm running and why I'm doing these things. And again, the content, because I'm a pure content creator. My photography is coming up and up and up and up, and I'm now being more recognized for my photography than I am my running or the mental health stuff. So now, if I'm running, it's quite hard to take pictures, decent pictures, when one is running, maybe a little bit of video. So this time I'm continuing to enhance the old photography skills on my phone, which has a very expensive camera, by the way. And I'm learning to have this pause and to take some of these things in and do it in a completely different way. So I'm retraining the old brain from my old version of running and why I was doing these things. And I'm going to, some people are like, well, how would you enjoy running 300 and something odd miles? I'm like, well, that's what I'm going to go and find out, isn't it? Because I didn't enjoy it last time. And people say, why would you go and run 500 miles and not enjoy it? Tom and you, Dom, I know that you two are athletes. If you're an athlete, you'll probably know that pushing the boundaries sometimes and going to these places is kind of what defines for me. I always want to push my body and see how far I can go. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So, I mean, I'm learning every day. I'm learning every day, and I'm always open to learning every day. I don't know everything. And I caught a little bit with Peter, and it's like, when I started my podcast, it's like I always keep an open mind. You know, lots of people will want to give advice. The mind can start to blow up and boggle all over the place. But I often will take all of that. I'll go to a very quiet space, go and sit there with a piece of the old style pen and paper, pencil and paper, write down pros and cons, and be intuitive. And at the end, you'll know exactly what will work for you. You know exactly what will be right for you. And I would also add, it has to be right for you. I don't do my things for other people. I do them for me, because I used to do them all for me. And sometimes when it's going well, it's awesome. And when it doesn't go well, it's like, hey. So good luck, Peter, on whatever you're doing. I only caught a little bits and pieces. You're in the right place to get the right advice. Dom, Tom, everybody, have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks for allowing me to pop up.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for being here. And I can definitely relate to what you're talking about with when people ask you, why do you do some of these big challenges? Why do you push yourself? I get the same kinds of questions when it comes to triathlon, and particularly when I tell people what an Ironman triathlon is, what it consists of. And I see their eyes go wide and they shake their heads and go, why would you ever want to do that to yourself? You know, honestly, it's I do it for the process more than anything else, right? Like, I learn a ton about myself and what I'm capable of, and my mental fortitude, and I improve my mental fortitude every time I go through training for an event, right? It improves my mental strength, right? My ability, my strength of character, my ability to push through difficult, painful, uncomfortable situations and know that I can come out successful on the other end. So, I mean, that's why I do it, right? I mean, that's why it's worth doing, is to get the benefit of the training on the other end, right? It's so much. It's about the race, right? And I always want to do well when I toe the line and I get ready to get in the water at the beginning of a triathlon. Like, I always want to do well. I always want to do better than I did the last time. But really, at that point, all the work's been done, right? All the training is in the books. You know, at that point, all I'm doing is showing up to do what I've been working for the last 6 months. So yeah, I mean, I totally get it, but I think that's why I do it, right? I do it to improve myself through the process of training for an event. And it's as much, if not more, about the training than it is about the event itself, right? The event is the icing on the cake, right? The event is the cherry on top of the sundae, but you already put the sundae together in the training. Like, that's what really is the value to my way of thinking. But yeah, Dom, do you have show and tell for us? You got something ready to go? Are you gonna
Yeah,
wow me?
I had a picture with Brian Alves with a mustache on it, but instead it was at Creative Con. John J. Wiley was in a room, and they had everybody wore mustaches when John J. Wiley came in the room, and his handlebar mustache is even better in person. I felt like I could swing from it, but no. My what I have to show for show and tell today is the Creative Con book. So I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Oh, we're gonna get to see if Dom can count. How high can Dom count?
Okay. There's 22 authors in the book that shared stories of omnipresence, stories of their specialties, stories of tips on podcasting, tips on media, tips on how to build community, tips on production. These are some of the people that took part of Creative Con from day one. You know, some of them ended up on the stages, some of them helped us get us through the finish line, and this is their stories in this Creative Con book. And I shared the link above, and we'd love for you to check it out. And this is my show and tell today. I got 2 of them already. Woohoo! Okay, so that's get yourself 2, one to read and one to give to somebody else. That's all I got, Tom. What do you got? You gonna give us a wrap up, Tom?
There you go. I didn't know you were throwing in my wrap up right away, man.
I didn't know we had more to do. We usually
no. I didn't. The show and tell was shorter. Usually we go back and forth a little bit.
Oh, that's true. Okay. What do you think? We usually do. There is a format to your what? Tom,
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
What do you think about my show and tell?
So do we want something we've done a couple of times, because I honestly I'm not sure where to go. So one of the things we've done before is we asked somebody in the room to give me a topic for the wrap up. So should we try that again? Should we see how that goes?
Let's tell them to put it. Let's go in the comments. Can put it in the comments, or let's see if anybody knows how to use the comments here. So okay, yeah, people.
They can flash and shout it out, right?
Okay, flash and shout it out. What do you got? Tom's wrap up. What do we got? Anybody flash, shout it out. Phil, what should Tom do? Carrie? No? Phil, go on.
Legendeering.
Okay. What do you got, Phil?
Road tripping.
Okay. I've heard
road trip. How about
okay,
that?
A legendeering road trip. Now tell the story.
Hotel lobbies.
Okay.
I like hotel lobbies.
No. Tom is a talented storyteller. So Tom, combine all 3 of those and give us a wrap up. Well, hotel lobbies, road trips, legendeering. Go on.
All right, here we go. So, I mean, I think hotel lobbies are often one of the most forgotten spaces in a hotel, right? One of the most overlooked, because so more often than not, the only time you spend in the lobby is when you're walking past the front desk, checking in, checking out, or walking out the front doors, right? And a lot of times lobbies, in hotels will have coffee shops, they'll have little restaurants or cafes or bars, and they'll try to get people to spend time there, but they have a hard time doing it. And I think part of the reason is that often when you're staying in a hotel, it's maybe you, maybe a couple of other people that but it's not usually a large group. Over the last weekend at Creative Con and outside of Chicago, there at the Marriott, we were a large group. We kind of took over that hotel lobby, particularly on Saturday evening, and everybody hung out, and it was a great opportunity to get to network a little bit further and build relationships with each other, right? Because ultimately, that's what networking is really about. Networking is about connection and building relationships, and I think in that hotel lobby, a lot of people had the opportunity to sow the seeds in the fertile ground that we created at Creative Con to grow long-lasting, meaningful relationships with other like-minded creative entrepreneurs. And ultimately, that's what Dom and I did on our road trip. Was we spent 16 hours in a capsule of sorts together, sitting in the cab of my truck, driving from Pittsburgh to Chicago and then from Chicago back to Pittsburgh, and all those small road trips we took between the Marriott and the Metropolis on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We spent a lot of time in that cab together, just talking back and forth, and really sort of firming up the foundations of the friendship that we've built hosting this room together over the last couple of years, and that we started to build or expand during the process of planning Creative Con over the last 6 months. And you know, we ended up putting a lot of time and energy into solidifying those relationships for ourselves. So ultimately, what it comes down to is, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, the most valuable thing you can have are long-lasting, meaningful relationships, right? And the best ways to build those long-lasting, meaningful relationships are to do some of the things that I talk about in Legendeering, right? Is to lead with value. Always seek to give more than you take, right? And you won't be perfect at it. I know I'm not either. I often fall short of that goal, but intention really matters with that one. So make it your intention to always lead with value, right? To give without expectation, to make sure that you don't tie strings to the gifts that you give to the people that are part of your community, because I believe a gift has to be a gift. It cannot be an ask, right? To be relentlessly authentic. To always be you, and to stand proudly in who you are and the values that you hold, right? Because you will ultimately attract people with shared values by doing that. To and now I lost my train. Hold on, I got the first three. I got lead with value. I got give without expectation. I got be relentlessly authentic. I got, remember, it's not about you, it's about them, right? Don't be selfish. It's not about you, it's about your audience. So whoever you're talking to, whether you're having a conversation one-on-one or you're speaking to a group of people, remember you're there to deliver for them. Start with story, follow with facts, right? Information really only is memorable for us when we can contextualize it within a story, and then draw parallels between those stories that we hear in our own lives, right? So we can contextualize that information within our own lives. So remember to start with story, always start with story, and then follow up with facts. And then oh man, and now I'm drawing another blank. How did I do that? And then to always remember that consistency is key, right? And we just talked about that with Peter. But consistency really matters because it allows you to set expectations and then live up to those expectations. So, when you meet people like we all met at Creative Con this last weekend, when you spend time with people, when you start to build relationships with people, whether that's, again, personal or professional life, one-on-one or with an audience, make sure that when you say you're going to show up, you show up, right? When you set an expectation, you live up to that expectation. If you say you're going to reach out to someone, reach out to them. If you say you're going to email. If you say you're going to connect. Make sure you do all of those things so that you can make sure that you live up to those expectations and you build trust with that community. And those are the things that we talk about. I talk about all the time in Legendeering. Those are the things that are in you can find them all outlined in my book. Again, Legendeering. And it's some of the things I talked about when I had the opportunity to speak to everybody at Creative Con. But yeah, so there we go. That's how I tied together hotel lobbies, road trips, and Legendeering. I hope I managed to do it well, but three things, that I think actually share more in common than you would realize just from looking at them on the surface. So, look, I just want to say for Dom, I'm Tom. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate all of you for being here with us again on a Wednesday, starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be back here again next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern for Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until then, everybody, have a great rest of your week. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Pick up a Creative Con book when you go to Order Legendeering. Had to throw it in there. When you go to Order Legendeering, make sure you pick up a copy of Creative Con, the Creative Con book as well. And we hope to talk to all of you guys soon. Until then, have a great rest of your week, a great weekend. Love y'all. Bye-bye now.